In terms of literary fiction, William Faulkner is one of the GOATs. And today, we are going to explore the axiomatic mindset that William Faulkner brought to the page every single day by listening to a quote from him. And then I'm going to do some booktube alchemy and connect Faulkner's mindset in the 1950s to our current problems as authors in 2025, because we exist right now in a dying industry, and William Faulkner knows all about that. It took decades for William Faulkner to really catapult in terms of fame to what he deserved. But for every William Faulkner, for every Neil Gaiman or whoever is successful today, there are millions of other authors who are good but have attained no success at all. And so, one of the biggest traps that you can fall into as an author is to put too much pressure on yourself. And let's hear from Faulkner now on this topic, and then we will dive deeper. Keep it amateur. You're not writing for money, but for pleasure. It should be fun, and it should be exciting. Maybe not as you write, but after it's done, you should feel an excitement, a passion. That doesn't mean feeling proud, sitting there gloating over what you've done. It means you know you've done your best. Next time, it's going to be better. And guys, trust me, I understand how hard it is to keep things amateur and to make things fun when you maybe don't even have any readers yet. You don't have any dedicated fans, and you've put thousands of hours and built your entire persona and lifestyle and your narrative of how you present yourself to other people around writing. I understand how hard it is to have 2 reviews on Amazon from your mom and your girlfriend. And what makes Faulkner such a good author, in my opinion, is that he existed in one of the greatest times ever for authors. Because when you look at the road work that was laid out by Pound and Williams and Robinson Jeffers, Hemingway, all the beautiful authors in Europe and in South America in the modernist movement, it really helped relieve a lot of the pressure from the Victorian era. Because if you look in the 1890s, Robert Browning was one of the biggest poets. Robert Browning was considered one of the best. And a couple decades later, we have William Carlos Williams producing stuff like Cora in Hell. We have psychoanalysis and the integration of Eastern philosophy with stuff like Taoism and the Chinese wilderness poets into the early forms of modernism by, the major poets Eliot, Pound, and Williams. It freed us from centuries, if not a millennia, of literary constraints. And so the modernists, instead of using that freedom to talk about everything and explore everything in a very postmodernist way, started to understand the truth in objects, the truth in a singular vision, the truth that Rodin taught to Rilke, the truth that the East had already figured out, whether it was Eastern Orthodoxy or Hinduism or Buddhism, in terms of having a singular connection to the moment and to God. And so many of the modernists, goats like Proust and Joyce, and the Spanish symbolists like Antonio Machado for poetry and others, they had such beautiful precision and vision with their work. And then obviously a couple decades after, the reign of Pound and Eliot and Williams, we have people like Thomas Pynchon and others releasing, just experimental, jaw-dropping, and somewhat devilish novels. But William Faulkner kind of existed in isolation in between these eras, growing up in the South. And Faulkner differed from many of his contemporaries because he never attended a prestigious university. He never lived in Europe. But what Faulkner did have, and this is a little known fact, is that you guys just heard me talk about precision. And when modernism started to focus on the object, as Williams said, no ideas but in things, they utilized one of the strengths of Victorian writing, because when you look at Victorian era poetry and fiction, it is highly precise. It is kind of one of the standards of the craft, of the aesthetic. And so many of the modernist writers grew up on Victorian era stuff. That's what they were breaking from. And so they took a lot of the Victorian era precision into modernism. But William Faulkner was born a little bit later than a lot of the major modernist figures. But at the start of his career, he tried to do Victorian writing. He tried to do Victorian poetry and Victorian style novels and fiction, and it didn't really work out. And so then he went to basically doing one-to-one imitation with people like Hemingway and other fiction authors around that time until he finally found his own style. And so this all relates to keeping it fun because when you take a very talented and genius mind, or a mind like you and I have, and you drill it with precision for years, and then you let it go free, then you let it touch the unconscious, magic happens. And the break from Victorian kind of rigidity felt fun for Faulkner. And what's great about the modernist era is that things hadn't become too complicated yet because we've all been there. We start writing a piece of fiction because we are trying to be avant garde or progressive or show everyone how smart we are. And then we realize that it isn't very fun, that this has kind of turned into a convoluted mess. And I kind of see, the people who enjoy that type of thing, like a David Foster Wallace or a William T. Vollmann, as not normal people. They are highly educated, hyper-focused individuals who maybe are undiagnosed. And so for many of us, our innovations, our greatest pleasures in art are not found through ambition, but found in the moment, found by tapping into our true talent and our true direction as an author. But my point there was that if you are a modernist writer and you are writing in a very focused way about relationships or about nature, then an obsessive mind can become peaceful. And so many writers put so much pressure on themselves that they never finish any work. Writing a novel can be a very daunting task, you guys. And there are always people out there who are like, just do it, just write it. And that's true also. But for many of us whose dopamine systems and priorities have been totally screwed up, sitting down and finishing something and putting thousands of hours into one thing is way beyond our endurance limits. And so something that I think and that I am doubling down on this year is that you should be writing no matter what. And you can post silly writing or writing that maybe isn't your best or isn't what's going to make you famous online for free. And you can build an audience that way. You can not be perfect in 2025, and it's a good thing. You are sharpening the sword. A lot of the greats in the past, for better or for worse, a lot of their drafts, a lot of their ideas, a lot of their growth was never documented. But if you are on the path of becoming a full-time author, it is going to take you most likely 5 to 10 years to get there. And so people in the future are going to want to see how you got there. They are going to want to see your progression, and you will not only profit off of that, you will also motivate and inspire and send good karma down the road by posting things that you are just doing for fun. And that's what makes posting on somewhere like Substack so wonderful, because yes, you are always hopefully trying to attempt to wake someone up or push the limits with your writing and really touch someone's soul. But if it doesn't work, then no one's necessarily going to be too mad because it's free. But if you give someone a book and it absolutely sucks, we've all been there before. You feel betrayed. I've had people push their books onto me before, and I'm sitting there reading it and I'm like, Jesus Christ. But this year over on Substack, I've committed myself to writing a poem every single day. And I understand that some of them are going to suck. I understand that some of them are going to be written in, 5 minutes when I have a small break. But by sharing those poems with you guys, by making it fun again, by taking the pressure off of myself and knowing that there are going to be some random assholes that are going to go click on go to my Substack one day and go straight to the top post and see something that isn't my best and be like, boom, I knew he was a hack. That's going to happen. But the Ian, the writer, the poet, 10 or 20 years from now would have rather had the Ian of today sharpen the sword and practice and release 350 poems to build an audience and share my work and my message about transforming your soul through nature out to the world. And what's interesting is Faulkner says keep it amateur, and guess what amateurs do? Amateurs release a ton of quantity. I'm going to speak about this further soon, but a lot of you guys have studied all these great authors. You guys did good in university. You guys have written short stories and poems before. But most of the time, from what I've seen in my own writing and in my own journey of building an audience and by watching and studying so many others, is that most of the time it is a quantity issue, not a quality issue. That eventually one of your pieces is going to get over. Eventually, you are going to slowly build an audience. And even if you have to release, hundreds, yes, I said hundreds of short stories, if you write a short story every single week, like Ray Bradbury advises, maybe 5 years from now, after you've written 250 short stories, you've slowly built an audience. And then anyone who comes into your circle will have the greatest backlog of content ever. And obviously, you could paywall some of that or do whatever. And so that's the power of quantity. That when I go back and I read, the first novel by an author who I adore, I never expect it to be good. Are you guys are the same way, right? Like we do that all the time. You go and read, Casual Guru's first novel. I think it's called something about the hills. What is that? It's anyway, Pale View of the Hills. There we go. Or David Mitchell's first novel, Ghost Ridden, or I could just name novels all day, but those compared to those authors' greatest works were so small in comparison. And so you could view your work now the same way, which it most likely is going to be unless you just are totally peaking. And even if you are, then that means that you released a ton of content during your peak and can monetize it or do other stuff with it down the road. And so no matter where you are at right now, one of the best ways to keep it fun is to just write a ton and release it all for free and talk to others online and have people start reading your work. That is what I am doing because I've been taking myself a little bit too seriously. Sometimes I put undue pressure on myself because I know that I am someone who speaks about writing and have to uphold this standard. And so I want you guys to witness me post a poem every single day. I want to take you guys on this journey with me. If you are not currently writing on Substack.com and releasing your work there, whether it was essays you wrote in college or poems you wrote 10 years ago, then you are not taking yourself seriously as an author. Go to my page, go follow who I follow, go see people who are on the path of becoming full-time authors and really putting in the daily work. Follow the templates that we are laying down. And then you can join the literary renaissance. Then you will see that it's all so fun. Everyone who I've met on Substack has made writing so much more fun. I've met so many crazy and weird people and been a part of so many weird projects, and I'm going to be doing so many more collaborations. This is the most fun I've ever had. I'm not just writing for myself. I'm not just writing because I believe in the writing lineage of James Wright and Robert Bly and Hans Schoen and Basho that I'm a part of. I'm not just writing because I love writing. I'm now writing because independent authors taking autonomy of their work and sharing it out to the world and believing in it is the golden opportunity that literature has waited for its entirety. And as I said at the start of this show, that readers are dying. People who take literary fiction seriously, they are declining. And so with AI coming, with virtual reality sex machines and whatever other dopamine raising device is coming down the pipeline in the next 10 or 30 years, we have an opportunity that may be limited to save readers, to keep our foundation in the world of the arts. Because I do believe we can change the world through literature, but it starts with laughter. It starts with us coming together and liking each other and becoming friends and making reading fun again, creating personas in the publishing world. Who is our Stone Cold Steve Austin? Who is our Quentin Tarantino or Conor McGregor or whoever? Who is the spokesperson of great literature? And so, boom, everybody. It's going to be you. It's going to be you. I believe in you. Let's go. Keep it fun. I'm going to keep it fun. If you guys want to check out my daily poems, I would love to have you over there. I post a ton of free videos and podcasts. I translate poems. My Substack is popping off every single day. And so come join me over there, and I will see you guys in the next video.